All right, let's talk about a brand we all think we know. But behind those bright, colorful bricks is a pretty wild story of near total collapse and one of the most incredible comebacks in business history. We're talking, of course, about Lego. So just to put their size into perspective for a second, get this. There are now more of these little plastic people, the Lego minifigures, on planet Earth than there are actual humans. I mean, that's just wild, right? It speaks to a level of success that feels like it was always meant to be.
But here's the thing, it wasn't. Not even close. In fact, back in the early 2000s, after decades of what seemed like unstoppable success, the entire Lego empire was literally about to come crashing down.
And look, that wasn't some doomsday prediction from an outside analyst. That was the cold, hard warning from the company's own new CEO, Jørgen Vig Knudstorp, when he took the job in 2004. He saw it from the inside. The company was in a death spiral.
So what on earth went wrong? Well, it was a perfect storm, really. Sales were tanking, debt was piling up, and in this desperate scramble to innovate, the company had just completely lost the plot. They were making everything from Lego-branded jewelry to clothes. Their product line more than doubled, and their supply chain, it was a tangled mess with over 11,000 suppliers. That's more than Boeing uses to build a literal airplane.
So, facing total bankruptcy, what did they do? Well, what they did next has been called the greatest turnaround in corporate history. It was this methodical, disciplined, and honestly, a surprisingly simple strategy that brought them back from the brink.
The new leadership had this huge realization. The answer wasn't to add more stuff, it was to get ruthlessly focused on the core product, the humble brick. So they sold off the theme parks. They cut the number of unique Lego pieces they made in half. And, this is so important, they finally started listening to their most passionate fans. They rebuilt the entire business literally, brick by brick.
And this timeline just lays it all out so perfectly. You can really see the different phases of the journey. See, it all started back in 2004 with just stabilizing the ship, stopping the bleeding. Then, around 2009, they moved into building up their core platforms. And it was only once that solid foundation was in place that they could really start to innovate again and see those massive gains. And the results? I mean, look at this. They were absolutely staggering. In just that 2-year window between 2008 and 2010, profits didn't just grow, they quadrupled. To put that in perspective, Lego was growing faster than Apple at the time. It was a completely unbelievable comeback. So the big question is, how did they actually do it? It wasn't just about getting nostalgic and going back to the classic brick. No, the real secret sauce to the entire turnaround was building a super powerful, super disciplined digital backbone that would support everything else they wanted to do. They did this by creating what's known in the business world as an enterprise platform. Now, the easiest way to think about this is like the company's central nervous system. It was one single source of truth that made sure every part of the business, from finance to manufacturing to the supply chain, was all running on the same playbook, using the same data.
And this slide shows something so important. This wasn't just a tech project. It was a total cultural shift. They set up these guiding principles for their new platform, and my favorite is number 5 right there. Use original business logic. Do not copy. In other words, they weren't just going to digitize their old, broken ways of working. They wanted to rethink everything from the ground up to build a solid highway for the future.
Now, once they had that rock-solid enterprise platform, the slow, stable, reliable one, it allowed them to do something truly brilliant. It became the foundation for a second, totally different platform, an engagement platform. This one was all about speed, about innovation, letting them connect with fans and launch new digital ideas in weeks instead of years. And this is the key. You absolutely cannot have the fast, agile platform without the slow, stable one holding it all up. So, with the business itself back on solid ground, the Lego story starts to shift. It becomes less about corporate finance and way more about the power of the brick itself. Not just as a product, but as a tool for learning, for creativity, and even for changing how we see the world.
Which brings us to this really fascinating question. We all know Lego is fun, but can a simple toy actually alter a child's fundamental ideas about something complex, like science?
Well, a study tried to answer that exact question using a really simple method called the Draw a Scientist test. Before they did a Lego robotics program, kids drew the classic stereotype, right? A guy, wild hair, lab coat, beakers, you know the one. But after building and programming with Lego Mindstorms, boom, the image completely changed to a much more modern scientist working with computers and robots. And the data here is just incredible to see. The percentage of kids drawing male scientists dropped by a huge amount. The whole crazy hair stereotype got cut in half.
And look at the jump in things like writing equipment. The hands-on experience gave them a much more realistic, way less stereotypical idea of what a scientist actually is and what they do. So, let's recap. Lego saved itself by going back to the magic of the physical brick. But, and this is the really interesting part, its future is all about masterfully bridging that physical world with the digital one.
And they are doing this absolutely everywhere. You've got Lego Ideas, where fans themselves design and vote on the next official set. There's Lego Life, which is basically a kid-safe Instagram for their creations. And then you have games like Lego Dimensions and Nexo Nights that brilliantly merge a physical toy with a virtual world. The line between playing on the floor and playing on a screen, yeah, that line is basically vanishing.
Which leaves us all with one final, and I think pretty critical question. Lego's incredible story shows the enduring power of a physical object. But as our lives become more and more screen-based, what really is the future for a simple plastic brick? Well, Lego's answer seems to be, it's not a choice. It's not one or the other, it's both, connected seamlessly. And that idea, well, that just might be the blueprint for the entire future of play.